Welcome to Sinister Stories, where the shadows hold more than just secrets. If you're a fan of the dark and the twisted, you're in the right place. Tonight, we dive into a tale that will send chills down your spine. Before we begin, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, so you don't miss a single spine-tingling story. Ricky and Darrell weren't the type of guys you'd hire for anything important, or legal, or involving heavy lifting past 4 p.m. But when your Craigslist ad reads, "We'll do literally anything, except taxes," eventually someone's gonna call your bluff. The call came at 9:13 p.m., right as they were halfway through a frozen pizza and a blunt the size of a Slim Jim. "Yo," Ricky mumbled, answering the phone with his mouth still full of sausage and regret. A deep, raspy voice whispered through the speaker. $2,000, one goat. Pick it up, no questions. Darrell leaned in, eyes redder than a sunburned tomato. Did that dude say goat? The man texted them an address, no pleasantries. Just, bring gloves. And then, do not be late. Midnight is final. Bro, Darrell said, grabbing the keys to the van. This is either the easiest money of our lives or the last thing we ever do. They rolled out in their dented van named Dank Express, weed smoke billowing out the windows like it had just finished a hotbox therapy session. They had no idea what they were walking into, just that it involved livestock, money, and probably something that violated at least 5 local ordinances. The address led them to an abandoned gas station outside town. The pumps were rusted. The sign just said, "You die," in flickering letters, and the whole building smelled like incense, burnt rubber, and fear. Waiting out front was a tall dude in a black cloak and plague doctor mask, standing motionless next to a wooden crate the size of a mini fridge. He handed Ricky a wad of cash, then Darrell a scroll tied with red twine. "Follow the rules," the man rasped. "Do not deviate, or the goat will choose." Then he vanished into the fog. No car, no footsteps, just gone. "Okay," Darrell said, untying the scroll. "So how weird we talkin'?" The scroll read, "Rules for disposing of the goat. Do not play music around the goat. If it hears beats, it'll start chanting. Never call it Billy. That awakens its true name. If it smiles, cover your ears. Don't feed it after 11:11 p.m., especially not Funyuns. If it turns into a man, do not accept a handshake. At midnight, the goat chooses. Don't be the one it likes." "I feel like this is the kind of thing you say before dying in a B-horror movie," Ricky muttered. "I feel like this is the kind of thing we say during a B-horror movie," Darrell replied. They cautiously popped open the crate. Inside, nestled on black straw, was a goat. It looked normal-ish, except for the glowing yellow eyes, and the way it was already staring at them like it had a 401k and a grudge. "Yo," Darrell whispered. "Did it just wink at me?" The goat made a noise like a baby crying backward. Ricky quickly nailed the crate shut. "Nope, nope, nope, nope. Let's just dump this thing wherever the next rule says and collect our money." Except there wasn't a next instruction. Just dispose of the goat. Dude, what does that even mean? Like throw it in a lake? Mail it to the IRS? They debated for 20 minutes, arguing over whether goats were waterproof and whether cremation counted as disposal. Eventually, they decided to take it to their friend Todd's farm. Todd owed them $80 and had a fire pit. 10 minutes into the drive, Darrell, being Darrell, put on his Spooky Vibes playlist. The goat, quiet until now, stood up inside the crate. Its mouth opened wide and it let out a string of Latin-sounding gibberish, deep and echoed like it came from a cathedral toilet. "Turn it off! Turn it off!" Ricky screamed. Darrell scrambled with the phone and dropped it under the seat. The chanting got louder. The van's windows fogged. The stereo sparked. The goat's pupils split like amoebas. Darrell finally yanked the aux cord out with a heroic yell, and the goat flopped back down like nothing had happened. Ricky swerved into a ditch. They sat there in silence, engine idling, goat humming a lullaby in some long-dead language. "I think it hates Skrillex," Darrell whispered. No, it hates you. They drove on in total silence, windows down, as the goat occasionally giggled. By the time they reached Todd's, it was 11:09 p.m. They had 2 minutes before Funyun curfew. Okay, Ricky said. Let's just drop the crate and run. But Todd's gate was locked, and the goat was gone. The crate was open, not broken, not busted, just unlocked. Then they heard it, from the top of the van. Clop, clop, clop. Bro, Darrell whispered, it's on the roof. They froze. A long, soft breath slithered down the windshield from above. And then, a knock, 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 knock. Ricky slowly turned his head and locked eyes with the goat. It was smiling. Ricky screamed like he'd just seen his grandma naked, threw the van in reverse and gunned it so hard the goat flew off the roof like a fuzzy demonic frisbee. It landed in the dirt with a sickening squelch and immediately rolled onto its hooves, completely unfazed. It stood there smiling, still smiling, as the van tore down the gravel road. You saw it smile, right? Ricky shouted, hands shaking on the wheel. Bro, Rule 3, it smiled. We were supposed to cover our ears, Darrell yelled, frantically trying to shove his vape into his ears like earbuds. I didn't know what was worse, the smile or the fact that it giggled like a toddler getting tickled by Satan. Did you hear what it said? Darrell whispered. Ricky's eyes darted toward him. What? It said, I like your soul, Darrell. Nah. Nope. I'm out. We're done. We're moving to Canada. They drove in silence for a while, too freaked out to talk, until Darrell remembered the time. Dude! It's past 11:11, he cried. Did it eat anything? Did you leave snacks in the van? Ricky's face went pale. My Funyuns. They both turned slowly to look at the back seat. There, sitting neatly in the middle of the bench like it belonged on a road trip, was the goat. Bag of Funyuns ripped open, chewing slowly, making eye contact. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Drive faster, Darrell shouted. Rule 4 says no Funyuns. I know what it says. I didn't think the goat would find the bag and help itself. What happens now? I don't know. Maybe it turns into a piñata full of bees. Maybe it levels up. I don't even know what stage of Pokemon this thing is in. Suddenly, the radio, which had been off, crackled to life. A voice, warped and wet-sounding, whispered, Funyuns, delicious like your regrets. Then it shrieked so loud the windshield cracked. Ricky jerked the wheel and swerved off the road, crashing through a cornfield, finally stopping the van in front of an old, crumbling barn lit only by moonlight. Okay, Darrell wheezed, clutching his chest. Let's just drop it off here. The barn looks haunted enough. Some evil spirit will probably adopt it. They jumped out and opened the back door. The goat was gone. Bro, don't say it. It's behind me, isn't it? Ricky turned slowly. The goat was standing in the corn, wearing Ricky's sunglasses and balancing a vape pen on its horn like a ballerina. I think it's trying to assert dominance, Darrell said. Ricky grabbed a pitchfork from the barn wall. Back up, little dude. I swear I'll fork you into the next dimension. The goat tilted its head and started to stand up, not just rearing like a horse. No, it stood upright, like a human. Its bones cracked and popped like bubble wrap as it grew taller, its fur receding into gray, slimy skin. Its hooves split into grotesque fingers. It reached a full 6 feet in height. Then it extended a handshake. Dude! Rule 5, Darrell screeched. If it turns into a man, do not accept the handshake. I know, Ricky shrieked. But it's just, look at it. It's so formal. The goat man wiggled its fingers invitingly. Accept me, it hissed. Be my vessel, or your buddy can. They both stared at each other. Then Ricky did what any sane person would do in that moment. He threw the pitchfork, missed entirely, and punched the goat man in the snout. It let out an unholy screech, spun like a Beyblade of evil, and bolted into the field, knocking over corn stalks and screaming about lawsuits. They stood there in silence, panting. "Dude," Darrell said, "we just punched a demon goat." "Yeah," Ricky said, lighting a shaky joint. "And you know what?" "What?" "It's almost midnight." They froze, then turned and ran to the van, dove inside, locked the doors, and waited. The digital clock on the dash clicked to 12 a.m. The radio turned on by itself again. A low, gravelly voice spoke. "At midnight, the goat chooses." A silence, then whispering, closer this time. "It has chosen." The glove box popped open on its own. Inside was a Funyun bag, twisted into the shape of a heart, with Darrell's name written on it in blood. He screamed, "I don't even like Funyuns that much!" Darrell refused to touch the cursed Funyun heart even with oven mitts. He just kept screaming, "Why me? Why always me?" While Ricky tried to reason with the universe. "I mean, maybe chosen doesn't mean like possessed," Ricky offered. "Maybe it's like a prize. Like you're the chosen one in a good way." Darrell pointed to the blood-soaked Funyun heart. "That doesn't look like a good prize, Ricky. That looks like the free toy that comes with eternal damnation." Outside the van, something rustled in the corn. The goat, or what used to be the goat, was back, but this time it wasn't trying to blend in or act subtle. It was standing in the middle of the field, arms spread like it was about to give a TED Talk on demonic ownership. Its face kept morphing. Goat, man, goat. Their high school gym teacher, goat again. "Okay," Ricky said. "I think it's time to call the guy who hired us." Darrell whipped out his phone and redialed the number from earlier. It rang once. Twice. Then a voice answered. Not the creepy plague mask guy from before, but something else. Something wheezing. Something wet. "It has begun." Then it hung up. Darrell stared at his phone. "Bro, it just went from Craigslist to Clue. We're officially in a horror movie." The goat man took a step forward, and then another step, and then it started skipping. Full skip, like it was frolicking into a school play. "I'm not dying like this," Darrell whispered. "I'm not dying to a demonic goat doing jazz hands." They bolted out of the van and ran toward the barn. Ricky slammed the doors shut behind them and started barricading with everything he could find. Old chairs, toolboxes, a rusty riding mower named Luann. The air grew cold. The walls creaked. A deep hum filled the air, like a broken cello being played by a T-Rex. Darrell found the scroll from earlier, which had been jammed in the glove box. He unrolled it. "Dude," he gasped, "there's a back to the scroll." Ricky stopped shoving paint cans in front of the windows. "What's it say?" Darrell read out loud. "If the goat has chosen, there's only one chance to sever the bond. Burn the vessel. Speak its true name. Finish the ritual." "Burn the vessel? What's the vessel?" They looked at each other. Then they looked at Darrell. "No, no, no," Darrell said, backing away. "No one's burning this vessel. This vessel moisturizes." Ricky grabbed a lantern and a rusty box of matches. "Dude, you saw the Funyun heart. You're the chosen vessel. I'm not getting roasted like a demonic marshmallow. There's got to be another way." Just then the barn doors exploded inward. The goat man stood there, smiling so wide its face nearly cracked. Smoke trailed off its hooves. Its shadow reached across the floor like it had a mind of its own. It spoke in a dozen voices at once. "Someone called me Billy." The entire barn groaned like it was alive. Darrell stared at Ricky. "Bro, did you call it Billy?" "I didn't call it Billy." "Then who did?" They both looked at the goat. It pointed a long, cracking finger at itself. "It named itself?" Ricky said. Darrell blinked. "Wait, that breaks Rule 2. He broke Rule 2. The goat man stopped. Its grin faded. It looked down at its own hand, confused. Then its body twitched. A spasm rippled through it like a tidal wave of regret. "Bro," Ricky whispered. "It glitched." Darrell's eyes lit up. "We can use this. The goat man shrieked, the barn shaking like it was mid-earthquake. Darrell shouted, "Grab the lantern! Start the fire!" Ricky threw the lantern into a pile of hay and broken chairs. Flames shot up immediately, casting giant shadows of panic across the barn walls. The goat man staggered back. Ricky turned to Darrell. "We need its true name. It said never to call it Billy, right? That awakens its name. So what's its real name?" They both stared at the goat as it twisted and groaned, smoke pouring from its mouth, its skin bubbling like overcooked soup. Then, from the scroll, more writing began to appear, like invisible ink reacting to heat. Darrell read aloud. "To banish the chosen beast, the name must be complete. Speak it in full and seal the fire's pull." A final line appeared. "His name is Billiam Balthazar B. Gotenstein III." They both paused. Ricky blinked. "Are you freaking kidding me?" Darrell yelled, "Yo! Bill!" Ricky interrupted. "No. Say it all, it's gotta be complete." Darrell took a deep breath and bellowed, "Billiam Balthazar B. Gotenstein III." The flames roared like a jet engine. The goat man screamed a sound that made their noses bleed and their teeth hurt. Then, pop, gone. Just a pile of ashes and a bag of uneaten Funyuns remained. Ricky collapsed against a wall. Did we just win? Darrell walked over, picked up the Funyuns, and threw them into the fire. No more rules, no more snacks, no more goat demons named Billiam. They sat there in stunned silence. Then the radio in the van turned on again. Delivery confirmed. Payment transferred. See you next job. The barn was half burnt, the air smelled like sulfur and regret, and Ricky's eyebrows were completely singed off. Darrell paced in a circle, still muttering to himself. Billiam freaking Gotenstein. I can't believe that was real. I called him Billy one time as a joke, and I almost got spiritually body-snatched by a goat demon with a vape addiction. Ricky was still staring at the radio in the van, which had gone quiet after the last message. Bro, someone was watching. Like, the whole time. That cult guy? The shadow Craigslist boss? Somebody knew we'd actually do it. Darrell pointed at him. No, you knew we'd do it. I wanted to do that Xbox controller gig where we dressed up as Mario characters for that kid's birthday. Ricky smirked. Yeah, but this one came with $2,000 and free Funyuns. You know what else it came with? Screaming Goat Latin, a scroll written in blood and a demonic spirit with hands. Suddenly the van's horn honked by itself. Twice. They froze. Then the GPS came on with a robotic voice. Next location loaded. You have been upgraded to Tier 2 clearance. Tier 2? Ricky asked. The radio clicked back on. Mission 2 containment. Object is already en route. Estimated arrival time, 1 minute. Darrell's voice cracked. What object? What is en route? Then, footsteps. From the field. And not like goat footsteps this time. Big ones. Something was walking toward them, slow, thudding and heavy. Ricky peered out the barn's busted door. In the moonlight, he saw a massive shadow dragging something behind it. It looked like a fridge? Nope, not a fridge. A coffin. Being dragged by what appeared to be a 9-foot-tall man in a Burger King crown and a feather boa. Bro, Ricky whispered. We're not alone. The man-thing dropped the coffin right in front of the barn, stood upright, and bellowed like a foghorn. Then he opened the coffin. Inside was another scroll. And a hamster? The giant pointed at the scroll, then at them, then vanished in a puff of glitter and what smelled like Axe body spray. Darrell walked over in slow, dramatic horror and picked up the scroll. He unrolled it. Rules for containing the hamster of prophecy. Do not stare into its eyes for more than 6 seconds. You'll see things. Keep it away from mirrors. It doesn't like to see itself. Never, under any circumstance, say the phrase, squeaky little prophet. If it begins to levitate, sing to it, loudly, preferably Bon Jovi. It will try to escape between 3:13 and 3:17 a.m. If it succeeds, pray for humanity. Darrell blinked hard. A goat, a scroll, and now a prophecy hamster? What are we, the freaking holy pet avengers? The hamster blinked at them with glowing blue eyes. It didn't look evil. It looked bored. Then it opened its mouth and whispered, "You are the chosen dum-dums." "It talks!" Ricky screamed. The hamster floated out of the coffin and landed on Darrell's shoulder like it had always lived there. "I have seen the end of all things," it said in a tiny British voice, "and it is moist." Darrell slowly turned to Ricky. "I don't think we're high enough for this." The GPS spoke again. "Final mission will be delivered after successful containment." Ricky crossed his arms. "Dude, we're being used. That plague mask guy? He's got us on demon Uber duty. Except we don't get to rate the customer, and the tip is surviving." Darrell looked down at the hamster, which was now spinning its head in slow circles like it was warming up to explode. "I don't think we can quit. Not unless we want to end up in a coffin filled with expired Funyuns and bad vibes." Then, a knock at the van window. They turned. Standing there was a kid, maybe 10 years old, with empty black eyes and a "Hug Me, I'm Cursed" t-shirt. He handed them a note. "Good job with the goat, but the hamster's harder. Don't mess this up. We're watching." The kid vanished. No footsteps, no noise. Just a single Funyun left on the van's hood, shaped like a middle finger. Darrell clutched his chest. "I swear if I see one more snack-based demonic symbol, I'm walking into the woods and letting nature take me." Ricky grinned, weirdly excited. "Dude, we're not just stoners anymore. We're in the big leagues now. We're like supernatural errand boys, Hell's DoorDash." They turned back toward the barn to gather supplies. The hamster sneezed, let out a puff of glowing glitter, and whispered, "One of you will betray the other." Darrell froze. Ricky stared at him. "Not it." By the time the sun rose, Ricky had built a containment enclosure out of a milk crate, 2 bungee cords, and a Bible he borrowed from a roadside motel. Darrell was duct taping glow sticks to the walls, for the vibes, while the hamster of prophecy sat in the middle of it all, grooming itself like it hadn't threatened the end of humanity 4 hours ago. "I don't trust it," Darrell muttered. "It's too calm. No normal hamster should have seen the future and still be chillin' like it's on vacation." The hamster blinked slowly, its glowing eyes now replaced with tiny sunglasses made of tinfoil. It squeaked, and the lights flickered. Ricky looked up from his drawing. He'd been sketching a logo for their new business idea. A cult. Cleanup. Bros. We don't ask. We just burn it. "Yo," he said. "Does the prophecy say anything about what happens if it starts levitating with attitude?" The hamster floated 6 inches off the ground, spinning like a furry Beyblade. Darrell screamed, "Someone sing Bon Jovi!" They scrambled. Ricky grabbed his phone, opened Spotify and screamed, "It's my life! It's now or never!" The hamster gently floated down. Lights came back on. Everything was fine? Darrell wiped sweat from his face. "I hate this job. I miss when we used to clean out garages for weed money and free Hot Pockets." The GPS pinged again. Final mission unlocked. The screen changed. A new address popped up. Coordinates deep in the woods. Deliver the hamster. Bury the scroll. Burn the van. "Burn the what?" Ricky yelled. "That van is family. That van has been with us through Taco Bell parking lot fights, backseat concerts, and 3 mild arrests." Darrell stared at the screen. "Dude, I think this was the endgame all along. We were never supposed to survive all this. We were pawns." The hamster belched and whispered, "More like nuggies in a cosmic sauce." They loaded into the van, reluctantly, emotionally, possibly already high again. The woods got thicker the further they drove. Trees arched overhead like claws. The road turned from gravel to dirt, then to bone-dry silence. They arrived at the coordinates, a perfect clearing. In the center stood a fire pit and a stone altar carved with symbols that looked suspiciously like cartoon goat heads and pizza slices. "I don't like it," Ricky muttered. "It's too symmetrical. Evil loves symmetry." They stepped out, placed the hamster in a velvet-lined shoebox, walked it up to the altar. The scroll began to glow in Darrell's pocket. He pulled it out. It burst into flames on its own. "Okay, that's done," he muttered. They turned to leave, but the GPS buzzed again. "Burn the van." "Nope, not doing it," Ricky said, arms crossed. "I'll burn my shoes. I'll burn your shoes. But not Dank Express." Then, the hamster squeaked, and every tree around the clearing bent inward with a loud creak. They were being boxed in. Okay, fine," Ricky shouted, pulling out the emergency lighter. "But if I die, I'm haunting whoever runs this stupid cult." He poured gas from the backup jug, lit a match, held it up. "Goodbye, old friend," he whispered. Then he dropped it. The van lit up like a giant bong had exploded in slow motion. Flames rose sky high. The hamster watched with a tiny nod of approval. Darrell blinked. "That's it. We're done. We followed the rules. We survived. Now what?" The flames turned blue. A portal opened where the van once stood. Ricky squinted. "Is that, a Chili's?" Darrell shook his head. "No, bro. It's worse." They both looked up at the sky. Where stars should have been, there were eyes. Thousands of them. Blinking. Watching. A massive, booming voice echoed through the woods. "Final evaluation complete." A figure stepped out of the portal. It was the plague mask guy, but this time he was wearing a Hawaiian shirt and cargo shorts. He handed them a business card. "Dark Side Services. Paranormal Logistics Division." "Congratulations," he said in a cheerful voice. "You passed." "Passed what?" Darrell asked. "We almost died like 37 times. "Exactly," the man replied. "You didn't die. That's rare. Most people get Funyun to death." Ricky looked at the card, then at the man. "What now?" The man smiled behind his beak mask. "You're hired." And just like that, he snapped his fingers. The world flipped inside out. When they came to, they were back in their apartment. No hamster, no scroll, just a duffel bag with $50,000 in cash, a brand new van in the driveway, and a sealed envelope marked Mission 3, Walmart Gremlin Extraction. Darrell looked at Ricky. Ricky looked at Darrell. Then they both fist bumped. "Let's do this,"